question of how do you make this a sexy profession, part of it has to do with just telling great stories about how you're helping your clients.
Hello and welcome back to my podcast series, CPAs Unplugged. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, Michael Horwitz, who's a leader at the BDO Alliance. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Varun. Great to be here.
So Mike, you've built, grown the BDO Alliance, brought so many independent firms together. Why don't you tell us about your journey in accounting in general and of course at BDO Alliance?
Well, thank you. Great question. And it's a privilege to be with you. I'm not a CPA. I never aspired to become a member of an accounting firm. I've actually been a partner at EY and principal now at BDO for the last 22 years. And I think I have the best job of any of the principals at my firm. I lead the BDO Alliance USA, which is the largest independent association of accounting firms that operates in the US. So as of today, we have 262 US-based accounting firms and another 150 or so non-accounting firms, Business Resource Network members,
Wow.
of which Miles is a very valued member of our BRN program. I didn't come into the profession in the traditional way. I came in through an acquisition that EY did a number of years ago of a boutique property tax firm.
Interesting.
That they added to their state and local tax practice. But I quickly realized accountants are fun people. They're incredibly well respected. I enjoyed my time at EY and got involved in a project that EY had created to develop relationships with outside independent firms that became ultimately an alliance program, an association of accounting firms. That was in the late 1990s, and that doesn't exist anymore, so none of the big four firms have anything like what we do. And Grant is not in our space. RSM and BDO are the two large firms that operate these associations of independent firms. And then there's 42 other associations of accounting firms that operate in the US. So lots of choices for independent firms, which is great.
So this is very interesting, right? How you have so many accounting firms and they tend to come together. It's more like a social network, a professional network, and these days, right? When you talk to Gen Zs, and all of us, right, are really connected, individually, personally, and you sort of forge those same connections at firm levels.
Yes.
How easy or how difficult is that, and how engaging does this get? Is your job to provide a platform where you get everybody in a room? I mean, 260 firms in a
room.
I don't know how do you
do that.
A lot
of people, 29,000 people.
You get people in a room and you do whatever you want,
yeah.
Or you really orchestrate things?
So it's a great question, and the saying, skate where the puck is going. We've been very fortunate and blessed, in fact, that the puck has been going in our direction. So collaboration, our program started in 1993. So prior to the internet, prior to being able to share information easily, digitally, and maybe in a different economic environment. And so as the internet came along, we leveraged the fact that we could communicate with our members quite easily and share
Absolutely.
Intellectual property. But stepping back, you have to have a willingness to share that content. So our firm made a strategic decision in the mid-90s, hey, we needed to have a broader platform and footprint. We had clients in other parts of the country. We didn't have offices. Let's establish alliance relationships with independent firms in markets that BDO didn't have a physical presence. And that's how our alliance program started. It was less immediate that we could share our content and resources because of the lack of internet connectivity, but as that came along, it was a lot easier for our alliance firms to plug into some of our intellectual property on occasion when they wanted it. There's also a recognition the BDO has, which we don't have all the answers, and so let's phone a friend on occasion and get some help from some of our alliance members ourselves. And we're willing to share our intellectual property with the marketplace, with our members, because we don't really see them as our competitors. Our CEO, Wayne Burson, likes to say 1 + 1 = 3. Let's collaborate with each other. There are a handful of firms out there that we probably would say, hey, not willing to share that information, but that's a limited number. And my observation is that the accounting profession overall is incredibly collaborative. So for the most part, firms are willing to share with each other, help each other out. And then obviously, what's the definition of a marketplace today? And as firms have grown and expanded, and we could talk about resources in all parts of the world, I think firms are feeling a little less competitive with the so-called firm down the street. So this concept of collaboration, we have many of our alliance members that are in the same marketplaces as BDO and each other, and they're just willing to hang around each other and help each other out, maybe refer some work to each other, maybe borrow some staff from each other. So the marketplace has evolved. Social media and social networking, as you referred to it, is just sort of a common practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a great willingness and a thirst for that knowledge and willingness and ability to share it.
So how do you see your personal or professional journey, Mike? You've like become a collaboration expert. You can like make anybody talk to anybody.
I don't know about that, but I'm privileged to work with 29 other great and amazing colleagues on the Alliance team. So we wake up in the morning and we're thinking about our Alliance members. They're our clients, if you will, and we're also serving our firm. So we have a lot of experience in the last 31 years in facilitating engagement amongst accountants. And as I mentioned, there's 44 associations of accounting firms that operate with a similar mission. Then you've got the state societies, you've got the CPAs, so there's lots of focus on this concept of collaboration. You've got to have great content and great resources and support to be able to provide the value to our members, which we're very fortunate to have in the support of our firm. There is a bit of an art to the science of creating engaging roundtable discussions on a variety of different topics and industry discussions and managing an accounting practice conversation and benchmarking and bringing in the right resources that are not accounting firm resources but that are related to accounting, tax, advisory services that want to hang around accountants. And so this ecosystem, we call it an alliance, has really evolved today to meet and hopefully anticipate the future needs of our existing members.
So how does your week or a typical month look like? What do you do?
It varies, as I'm sure you hear from most people. We're gearing up for our Alliance Conference, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll have 1,900
so you're gonna have fun
of our
Vegas.
favorite people together with us in Las Vegas, and I know Miles will be there with us. So lots of focus right now on attending to the 98 breakout sessions that we're going to be hosting there, and various general session comments and engaging with our members. I'm often on the road visiting with our alliance firms, which is among the more fun things that I get to do, and we have alliance members in 49 of the 50 states. You may ask which state we're missing in. Unfortunately, our alliance firm in North Dakota was acquired recently, so we're looking for a firm. If anyone's out there that's listening and based in North Dakota, please give us a call.
Absolutely.
And then visiting with BDO offices in engaging our teams to be more supportive of our alliance relationships is very important.
So you have 260 member firms?
CPA firms.
CPA firms.
Yep.
How many of them do you remember? If I were to do a memory check.
I could probably give you every single name and tell you what state they're based in. Hopefully their managing partner, maybe some of the other team members.
Amazing,
but yeah,
amazing. So the question is, Mike, now when you engage with all these firms, what do you see firms typically talking these days? What are top 3 topics of discussion when you engage with the firms? What are the problem areas? What are the trends that they see?
So it's a great question. One of our breakout sessions at our upcoming Alliance Conference, I call it the pulse of our managing partners. So we had about 140 of our managing partners fill out a survey, which opened up on April 1st. So it's a busy time of the year, so not all 262 of our members, but we got a good sense of what's on their mind, and the number one issue is capacity and people. So most of our firms have had tremendous years of growth, and they could continue to grow even faster than they have been if they had access to talent. So capacity would be number one. They're talking about technology, and whether it's AI or more traditional technologies, and how to best leverage that, and sort of in an inflection point of those firms that have and have not made investments in technology. And then I think the third would sort of be the maybe governance / ownership structure. And so a lot of M&A activity, private equity coming into the marketplace, wealth advisory firms are acquiring accounting firms, there's lots of traditional M&A going on. Many firms have not adequately planned for the succession and next generation of their leadership. Absolutely. So that's among the more important topics that we're hearing from our members on a regular basis, and we're trying to help them address all three.
Yep. So just breaking down 1, 2, 3. So the first one, capacity shortage, pipeline shortage. First question, Mike, why do you think there's a shortage of accountants, right? I mean, there are jobs out there.
Yeah.
Why is there a decline in number of students taking up accounting? Why is there a talent shortage?
Yeah.
Why do you think there's a talent shortage? And how do you think BDO Alliance in particular, or the profession in general, could help bridge the gap?
Well, this is come as no surprise to you. This isn't a new issue for the profession. So at least in my last 25 years, or my 25 years being connected, other than the Great Recession in 2008 or 9, every single year, if you asked accountants what are their big challenges, 1, 2, or 3 is going to be capacity. So this is not new for us. There's always been a greater demand than supply of talent. And then when you add in the resources that are being delivered by accounting firms today in advisory services, so something new, if you will, where you're hunting for potential CPAs to do non-traditional things, it creates a greater imbalance between supply and demand. I also think that maybe we're not paying enough to our younger team members, and they have opportunities to go in different directions that may have higher remuneration initially. Absolutely. Although the long term, to stay in the accounting world and to rise to a partner level, you can really do very well financially if you're willing to make that commitment. And part of the challenge may be that we don't do enough to advertise the great lifestyle and the financial benefits of being a partner and an owner of an accounting firm. We could probably be doing a better job at that.
How much money do partners make?
So that's a great question, and I'm sure you can Google this very easily. So there's a couple of terrific resources, including Accounting Today, Inside Public Accounting, Rosenberg Survey. So those are 3 that promote knowledge relative to the accounting profession. I would, many accounting firms, partners make over $1 million. So
in accounting, though I start not at the best salary levels, maybe slightly lower than a few other industries, I have a huge upside as I grow up the value chain.
Mm-hmm. You do.
Why aren't we marketing this? Why aren't partners coming out and say, hey, I make $1 million and you could too?
I'm not saying every partner makes $1 million.
No, okay.
More partners are making high 6 figures than they've ever made before. And so that's a very competitive compensation structure. I don't know, and I think the lack of transparency, I think it's changing, and so there's greater transparency in the marketplace today. If you were sitting in the BDO offices here in Boston, if I walked down the hall to any of our staff members and I said, do you know what other seniors or managers or senior managers are making? They all know what each other's making. That wasn't the case 10, 15 years ago. And the same thing needs to be shared with partners, with not the individual partner compensation, but general partner compensation. Any smart young person in college or an aspiring CPA can very easily Google and get all of the information that I'm sharing and would have a direct sense of what would I expect to make as I progress through my career. And so, can we do a better job? Absolutely, and I think we should be.
I mean, one of the things that I always tend to ask most of my guests is, how do we make accounting sexy again? Mm-hmm. Right? How do we make sure that we have a larger pool coming in? Yep. Everybody's excited about this. Rooting for the profession. So the more people retiring than folks getting in.
Right.
How do you really work on this? And,
well, I think that's a great question. A lot of it comes down to what are you doing on a day-to-day basis. I've never been an auditor, So I don't have that background. But for those folks that are in the assurance practice,
being an audit is as good as working in the FBI.
you could see it that way, and there's lots of very interesting.
You just don't have the guns.
But there's a lot of interesting work to be done in the audit side of the practice,
Yeah.
and same thing on the tax side.
Absolutely.
And now you've got this great number of ancillary services that firms are calling advisory services that are totally untraditional in terms of what your background could be or should be to thrive in those environments. I think that the question of how do you make this a sexy profession, part of it has to do with just telling great stories about how you're helping your clients.
Absolutely.
And what the impacts are. If you're doing tax work for high net worth individuals, how are you helping your clients thrive? And if you're doing an audit for a small privately held company that's growing, what is the value of that? That's a compliance-related service,
Absolutely.
right? It's regulated, it's required.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's by your lender, maybe it's by the public marketplace, but you're providing a very valued.
And that's what helps the private firm to really capture value and grow bigger. So yeah.
Right. So doing a better job of communicating not just what's the work, but what's the value. And the AICPA does a great job, and the state societies do, of promoting the value of the CPA and the trusting relationships that are developed by accounting firms. And it's a very unique position in the marketplace that accounting firms, rightly so, have. So as firms evolve and maybe provide client accounting and advisory services, or
Absolutely.
ESG services,
Absolutely.
or all of the various things, technology-driven, digital, helping companies create their own version of a chat GPT that has 4 walls around it and protects the privacy of their client data, as an example. Those are all things that we weren't doing until very recently. And so celebrating the evolution of the profession and what we were able to do and contribute to the stakeholders, whether they be corporations or individuals, I think is at the end of the day how we need to move
Absolutely.
to become sexier.
Yeah, and I think I love it, celebrating the profession and celebrating what we do. A couple of years back, there was an interesting article in the Washington Post which says the accountant shortage threatens capitalism's future. So in a sense, if you're an accountant, you're actually holding fort. You're saving the economy, you're saving capitalism.
Right, that's very altruistic and very rewarding to think about that. I think you need to balance the altruism with the day-to-day job
Absolutely.
that we all do.
Absolutely.
And making sure that that's a fun exercise.
Absolutely.
Right? I've got 2 amazing kids, neither of them are in this profession, but I have a sense of how they think and what they're interested in, and so it is important in today's environment where there's lots of movement of younger people, either between firms or into different industries, that you have a limited amount of time to hook these folks and to get them engaged in what we're doing as a profession. And so more of the grunt work, so to speak, is being done by maybe different people than would normally have done it in the past, or using technology. And so a lot of that lower level activity is gone, if you will. And so you're enabling smart young people coming out of college and graduate school to do valuable work much more commensurate with what's going on in their brain. And that's a very positive thing as well.
Absolutely. And Mike, something very interesting, and you said the second trend, or the second pulse of accounting leaders is talking about technology.
Yeah.
And something that Miles really rooted for was STEM in accounting education. Mm-hmm. And of course we had like a multi-purpose around it. The first one was, of course, technology and accounting is integrated. I mean, technology and anything else in business is integrated. And
Yes.
here we're talking about accounting. So bringing STEM into accounting education, and that also allowed us to attract an international talent pool, especially from India,
Yeah.
which helps us solve the problem number 1, which is the capacity issue to some extent. So we've been working with BDO Alliance and with BDO Alliance member firms for close to a year now, and of course we're very excited.
Yeah.
We are working with 8 firms right now, and we're looking at a lot of firms, excited about this, trying to get in. What do you think of the Miles model? What do you think? What did you think of it initially? What do you think of it now? What's your perspective on this piece?
As I mentioned, capacity and technology go hand in hand as two primary challenges for accounting firms. Leveraging capacity that can leverage technology is the home run,
absolutely,
if you will. So STEM training, as you mentioned, and getting smart people, especially amazing talent from India coming to the US and getting that training and then being placed with accounting firms here for 3 years. And then, hopefully they stay with that firm, and maybe they stay in the US, maybe they go home, but you've created great relationships. It's a brilliant concept because it bridges the talent shortage with I want to see the person that I'm dealing with, and
absolutely,
not on a screen, but in my office on a regular basis. And so becoming part of the community and hanging out at the social events that the firm has to offer, it's a win-win. And so you've done a great job of creating a model where you're trying to take the best of both worlds and play on maybe some cost differences that exist here, and then also making sure that you have built the personal relationships of your team members to the firms that have retained those resources. And the folks coming from India get some great experience living in the US and
absolutely,
getting a great education. So you're really smart.
Thank you.
We have relationships with a number of firms that have different versions of the capacity, whether their team members stay offshore in India or the Philippines or South Africa or Mexico or wherever, or maybe they're even based in the US, but they're in a different part of the country and they're being borrowed by our Alliance members. So there's a place for all of this.
Absolutely.
As there is a place for reliance on this next generation of technology to help us do all of the work that we have to do. And we're constantly meeting firms, companies, if you will, that we look at to join our business resource network that have leveraged AI and different technologies to put in the hands of the smart people that are doing all the work.
Amazing.
And a recent example, a company called Neo.tax. So I'm trying to remember if they're Neo AI or Neo Tax, but they're an AI-driven firm that specializes in R&D tax credit work.
Wow.
Okay.
R&D tax
R&D.
credit,
So
very
it's a
specific.
niche,
Okay. Wow.
right? And if you think about it, there's a tremendous amount of information that goes into evaluating R&D tax credit opportunities, data, documents, analysis. And so a lot of this can be leveraged by using AI. And
wow,
we, BDO as a firm, are looking at ways to leverage technology, as you would imagine. And CAS practices have been using AI-related solutions. And so you can look at all of the various facets of what an accounting firm does, not only internally to run the business, but also to serve our clients. And you could probably put your arms around how can technology enable us to do this better, faster, and cheaper. And many large firms are spending many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on creating these solutions that they can consume internally. BDO is spending a lot of money on it. Our Alliance members are spending less because they have less capacity and capital, but they're starting to leverage these outside vendors, if you will, that are coming out of the ground, if you will, and providing resources geared towards solving these technology solutions. So that's really exciting, and I would argue that if we were sitting down 5 years from now, which hopefully we have the pleasure of doing, we'll be thinking about ourselves as technology firms that happen to provide accounting, assurance, tax, and advisory services. Those are the firms that are going to thrive in this marketplace.
So one of the things, Mike, here, right? So, and a lot of member firms in BDO and a lot of mid-tier public accounting firms are trying to leverage tech. But sometimes a lot of partners tend to feel that there's a disincentive. They're still going with the traditional model of billable hours, and you use tech and your hours actually optimize, reduce in many cases. And how do you really...
That's a good thing. What's wrong with that?
So how do you really make money? And then you start positioning yourself as a tech company, then an accounting company, and
Sure.
then you have to move your clients and your billing models accordingly. I mean, have you heard of this
Yes, of
with your
course.
member firms?
Right. So the traditional billing model, bill by the hour, works against you if you are
Using
becoming more
technology.
efficient.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense, right?
Absolutely.
So to avoid innovating, you stay with your old model. Those are the firms of the past, and so many more firms are recognizing that the future is focusing in on technology and leveraging that technology. How they bill for those services, if they're smart, they'll bill the same exact amount that they billed before, if not more, for being more efficient in that process. And so time is irrelevant in terms of what it takes to provide the assistance that they need to provide to their clients. And maybe firms are starting to adopt, some are,
Yes, they are.
really going away from the billable hour, and they're not even tracking that. Others are still tracking it to maybe account for their time in some way, shape, or form internally, but they're not billing based upon that. So I don't see that as being an issue in the future.
And how do you see firms like BDO Alliance and all the other associations are great forums for firms to come together, work closely. How do you see aggregation happening in the accounting industry? I mean, the M&A activity,
Yeah.
Firms legally joining together or informally joining together. I mean,
Sure.
how do you see the landscape evolving?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And most of our firms, when they join our Alliance program, they join saying, I'm going to remain independent and I'm leveraging some of these
Alliance.
resources to help me do that. And then time passes, and we've had many firms involved in transactions, whether they're the acquirers or the acquirees, over the last several years. So we're helping them, if you will, create greater value for themselves, whether they want to maintain their independence or be combined or be acquiring other firms. We've had 9 firms take PE investments.
Wow.
So that's a lot in a relatively short amount of time. Those are firms that are still in our Alliance program, so they're not being acquired by platform firms and they lose their independence. We think that's going to happen a lot more in the next couple of years as firms look at those various opportunities. But accounting firms have never been more valuable. Good accounting firms, let me say that, have never been more valuable, and they're monetizing that value in a variety of different ways. We just did an ESOP at BDO, which is a unique ownership structure.
Yeah. And you never hear about that in accounting.
Well, there are 2 members of our Alliance program that actually are ESOPs already, and there are several other firms that either have become an ESOP, like a Grassi, or previously were. It's a small component of the CPA firm population that have adopted an ESOP structure, but that's an option for firms as well. So the evolution of ownership structure, the recognition that maybe it's good to hook up with a wealth advisory firm, and whether I'm starting my own wealth advisory practice or I may be part of a wealth advisory practice but providing tax services to those clients. There's lots of different ways to do what we're doing.
And this sounds so exciting.
You asked about what's sexy in this business?
Yeah. We get M&As and PEs and ESOPs.
So we're sitting in Boston, which is a life sciences capital, and BDO acquired a company that helps life sciences and biopharma companies get regulatory approvals. That's really important to them.
Wow.
Right? So would you think that an accounting firm would have a practice in doing that? Not traditionally, but now we do. And so you can salivate at the things that we may be doing as a profession in the not too distant future if you're willing to be creative and really go to your client and say, hey, you trust me, right? You've been working together for a while. We've provided these various assurance and tax services to you.
Let's just come
What else
together.
can we be doing for you? And it's not too much of a stretch to think that the platform of services that are being provided by accounting firms can expand exponentially
So it
over
sort of
the next
becomes
couple of years.
more professional services in general and a lot of things that your client needs and not just the traditional accounting services.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Mike, just taking a step back now, so we have a lot of accountants now coming in to the US,
Yes.
doing masters in accounting with STEM at top universities, and of course working for a few years on the student F1 visa. And one of the things that we see is a lot of excitement around the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and let me ask you this: what is the American dream?
Huh. Wow, that's a great question. Obviously, it varies from person to person, and I would think that what the American dream is today may be very different from what it was 10, 20, 30, or 40 years ago. Choice comes to mind in terms of democracy, and we're at a crazy time in our country's political history, and so respecting the unique nature of our democracy and hopefully preserving that is critical to the bedrock of what might become perceived as the future American dream. Oftentimes the American dream is referred to financially as creating an environment where your family can thrive and enjoy life, however you define enjoy. And hopefully that that's something that continues. We've got a great country and so many different ways to enjoy it and experience that dream. And I hope that I look forward to 5 years from now, and my vision of what an American dream is very different, because I'll have evolved and the country will have evolved as well.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do a little bit of a rapid fire with you, Mike, now, like a bunch of questions. And
okay.
Let's see how you do. Okay. So
let me
get
a grade for this.
Let's sort of we'll put this as part of this. Okay. So let's start. Coffee or tea? It's a simple one.
Yeah. So I don't drink coffee, but I love Starbucks has these chocolate-covered espresso beans. That's my guilty pleasure. So I go with tea.
Wow. Okay. And you don't see a lot of people in America going for tea, but that's interesting. Okay. So are you an early bird or a night owl?
Absolutely early bird.
So get up very early and you're like.
Yep.
Okay. Do you love the mountains or the beaches for a vacation?
I would say it's hard to choose, but I go mountain.
Okay. What's your favorite city, especially when you're traveling? I mean, you're visiting.
Great question.
Firms or maybe personal
We were just
vacation.
in Miami. I love Miami.
Okay.
Charleston, U.S. We're going to Wimbledon this summer, so
Wow.
I'm very excited to be in London.
So you have a lot of favorite cities.
I do.
Okay.
I
So
failed that question because I gave you multiple answers.
you didn't. Basically, you have a lot of favorites, and I think that's nice. One word for your leadership style, Mike.
Open.
And you have all the 30 people have in your Alliance firms, Alliance team having access to you.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the best piece of advice that you've given to your team, approaches you, talks to you?
Have fun. I mean, life is short. Enjoy
You don't
yourself.
have a lot of bosses saying that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, really, what we're doing is not that serious. You better enjoy it.
Okay. So AI in accounting, do you see that as an opportunity, threat, or both?
It's a requirement. So opportunity.
It's an opportunity. Okay. If you weren't in accounting, if you weren't the collaboration expert for accountants and accounting firms, what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to be a tennis professional, but that's not going to happen.
Wow. Okay.
So I would say,
Tennis is good. You could also become a tennis collaboration guy and all the tennis players around the world.
I love what I do. I haven't thought about anything else for the last 22 years, so I have no answer, no good answer for what I'd either rather be doing or think about doing differently than what I'm doing right now. I'm very fortunate.
Absolutely. And Mike, if you were to have a superpower, what would that be?
Superpower, live forever? Is that a superpower?
So you're going to get all the accounting firms and
yeah, exactly.
And they stay all the 260 firms are part of the Alliance.
I want to see what's going to happen in this profession 50 years from now. That would be really exciting.
Wow, very nice. No, so I think this was nice. You sort of did pretty well on the rapid fire. But before we wrap up, Mike, any thoughts, any suggestions, that you have, let's say, for Miles and the Miles team. So we are a BRN member with
Yes.
the BDO Alliance. We are really proud to be associated, and very grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this unique family. Any message, anything that you would say to Miles, to the team.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for being a valued member of our Business Resource Network, and we do value your membership. You've been very collaborative, which is critically important to us. You've educated us, which is a great asset. You have been thoughtful, and you're evolving your offering. So it's not like you have come in with one solution and that's the only thing that you're thinking about doing. That's really fascinating from our perspective, is to see you taking advantage of your knowledge and experience working with the great associations of accounting firms, the state societies of accounting firms, the industries, the universities that you're working with. So you're pulling all of this thought leadership together, and then you're evolving your offering for the marketplace. So what's accretive for us is that as of today, you're solving the problems of 8 of our members. You've got 250 plus to go, which
long way.
We welcome you and want to support you in doing so. And I'm excited about what is next for Miles and how you're going to evolve your offering to benefit our members.
And any message, Mike, that you have, for those accountants, coming in from thousands of miles away, getting out of the comfort zone and trying to live the American dream, explore the country, work with some amazing leaders in accounting firms. Any message for these Indian accountants?
I would just say get here fast, because there's lots of opportunity for you, and hopefully you'll enjoy our country and the many cultures that you'll be exposed to, and hopefully you'll share your culture with us.
Thank you so much, Mike. This was really a pleasure, and this was really, really nice. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed my time with you. Thank you.